You know when a massive tragedy strikes, what's the very first response? For most of us, it's shock, maybe fear, or just an overwhelming need to help. But for one New York artist who literally watched the towers fall, the first response was to create. Today we're going to look at how art became this incredibly powerful and immediate tool for healing after 9/11, and how it led to what many now call the very first memorial at Ground Zero. So here's how we're going to break down this incredible story. We'll start right there on that day, with an artist's personal view. Then we'll see how that turned into an immediate creative reaction. From there, how it grew into an actual physical shrine. We'll look at the powerful symbols that came out of it. And finally, how his temporary grassroots memorial was saved for history.
All right, let's dive into Section 1, An Artist Bears Witness. This story doesn't begin in a quiet studio or some fancy gallery. No, it starts on a rooftop in New York City with a direct, personal view of history changing forever.
That date, it just says it all, doesn't it? It's a moment that needs no introduction, a day that is just etched into our collective memory. And that artist was Keith DeCesare. Now think about this. He wasn't just seeing this on the news like most of us. He was an eyewitness, watching the smoke pour out of the Twin Towers with his own eyes. And that raw, unfiltered experience, well, that became the catalyst for absolutely everything that happened next.
Now, Keith DeCesare wasn't new to this idea of art having a real-world purpose. He'd already founded ArtAID, a nonprofit built on this exact principle, art in service of humanity. The whole mission was to use art to support people in times of crisis. But, nobody could have ever imagined a crisis on this scale.
Okay, Section 2, Art as First Response. This is where things get really amazing. We see how that initial shock wasn't just paralyzing, it was channeled, almost instantly, from personal grief into a public act of creation and support.
Just look at this timeline. It's incredible. On the very same day he saw the attacks, by that afternoon, DeCesare was already at his computer creating the firefighter's angel. This wasn't a response that took weeks or months to plan out. It was immediate. It was visceral. It was turning his own grief into a message of protection for the heroes running straight into danger.
And that image, it just connected with people right away. He started printing posters and handing them out for free, creating this kind of alternative media, a direct visual channel of support. Pretty soon, he adapted the design for the NYPD, the Port Authority, you name it. It became this unifying symbol that just said, "We see you, we honor you," at a time when words just weren't enough.
So, Section 3, A Shrine at Ground Zero. We see how this artistic impulse explodes from a single, powerful image into a real, physical place where an entire community could come together to mourn and remember. So right near the rubble, a special viewing platform was set up for the families of the victims. And it was right there that ArtAID set up what became a site of spontaneous memorialization. This wasn't official. This was an act of what's been called radical volunteerism, just people stepping up to create a space for collective grief and what they called radical hospitality for families in total shock. And the work they did was just all-encompassing. It went way beyond posters. They were creating these huge banners with victims' names. And get this, they compiled one of the very first accurate lists of names, which was a vital service. They became this crucial hub, a point of contact connecting families, volunteers, and all the different September 11th organizations that were just starting to form.
This place was truly a living memorial. It was covered in flowers, photos of loved ones, poems, drawings from kids, just heartbreaking handwritten notes. It was this raw, public expression of love and loss.
And ArtAID had the foresight to understand the historical importance of this outpouring of grief. They carefully collected and preserved over 100 of these deeply personal, votive items, making sure this spontaneous grassroots tribute wouldn't just be lost to the weather or swept away over time.
And now, Section 4, Symbols of Hope Emerge. Because in the middle of all that destruction and grief, these powerful symbols of hope actually began to appear right from the wreckage itself. And ArtAID was right there to see their power and help share their message.
Just 2 days after the attacks, a recovery worker found this. 2 intersecting steel beams fused together into an almost perfect cross. For the exhausted, heartbroken workers at the site, it became an instant, profound symbol of faith and resilience in the face of just absolute devastation.
So, what's so cool here is how ArtAID took this powerful, localized symbol and turned it into a message for everyone. They created this poster and handed it out for free.
It was a way to say thank you to the thousands of workers and volunteers, transforming an artifact into a shareable icon of remembrance and gratitude.
Okay, so you have this incredible, spontaneous memorial. But how do you make sure a grassroots effort like this isn't just lost to time? Well, in our final section, we're going to see how it was preserved and became a permanent part of the 9/11 story.
And this just perfectly illustrates the journey. It starts on the streets, right, with spontaneous art and tributes. Then ArtAID comes in, not just creating, but curating and preserving this history as it's happening. And then, finally, years later, that whole collection, the posters, the banners, the personal notes, is donated to the official 9/11 Memorial Museum. That's what cemented its place in our national story.
And here's the crucial point. This isn't just a sentimental story. It is a historically significant one. The museum's own chief curator, Jan Seidler Ramirez, recognizes ArtAID's work as, and I quote, arguably the first ground zero memorial that was created at the site. That gives real official weight to this incredible volunteer effort.
And really, this is the legacy. ArtAID didn't just create art, they documented a vital chapter of the 9/11 story that so easily could have been lost. They made the invisible history, that immediate human community response, a visible and permanent touchstone of healing and remembrance for millions of people to experience.
Which kind of leaves us with this final thought. This whole story shows that art isn't just something that reflects on history after it's all over. Sometimes, art is right there on the front lines, actively shaping how we understand and how we remember an event as it's unfolding, giving us symbols to hold on to when there's nothing else.